Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone and our lecturer, Dr. Mariam Jamilah. Before we proceed to our group presentation on the topic given, which is Ringgit Malaysia currency, I would like to introduce our group members. My name is Muhammad Azmi bin Azman and my group mates are Aizat Iskandar bin Azman, Faris Ikwan bin Romizu and Aiman Takif bin Saiful Jeffrey.
It is believed that the history of Malaysia began with the Sultanate of Malacca, which existed somewhere around the year 1400. It was not until 1511 that the Portuguese were able to take control of Malacca, marking the beginning of the colonial era in what is known as Malaya. During the 1920 and 1930, a significant number of people living in Malaysia began to get an education, either from the Middle East or from the education system in their own country. It had the appearance of being an educated group that was fighting in the name of nationalism. On April 1st, 1946, the British government formally constituted the Malayan Union. The Malay people fought back against this concept, arguing that it would abolish the royal institution and their special privilege. Malaysia, Singapore, Sabah, Sarawak and Brunei were the 5 colonies that Tunku Abdul Rahman Putra Al-Haj proposed combining to form a new nation on May 27, 1961. This proposal was made by Tunku Abdul Rahman Putra Al-Haj. On September 16, 1963, the goal of establishing a state that would be known as Malaysia was realized.
The country of Malaysia is two separate areas of land known as Peninsular Malaysia and East Malaysia. These two regions are separated by the South China Sea by about 400 miles. Peninsular Malaysia is on the tip of the Malay Peninsula, a long, thin landmass that snakes south from the country of Thailand toward the South China Sea. East Malaysia stretches across northern Borneo and island Malaysia share with the country of Indonesia. Malaysia capital, which is Kuala Lumpur, is located on the west side of Peninsular Malaysia, closer to the Indonesian island of Sumatra than the East Malaysia. East Malaysia is home of Mount Kinabalu, the country's highest point, which has an elevation of 3,455 feet. Malaysia share border with the Thailand to the north and Indonesia and the island of Singapore to the south. Singapore is separate from Malaysia by a bridge.
The increase in global competitions requires Malaysia to examine where its comparative advantage lies. Comparative advantage refers to the ability of one country to produce goods at a lower cost than other countries, and the country therefore should specialize in producing goods where it has a comparative advantage. May 2000 established the RCA index in order to analyze Malaysia's export specialization trend between 1994 and 1998. According to his research, Malaysia's competitive edge is being eroded by increased competition brought on by regionalization and the globalization, even though the importance of electronic and electrical manufacture in the manufacturing sector has not changed overall. This is indicated by the declining RCA index in some products grouped in this category like office machine and radio broadcast receiver.
These are 10 types of import and export in Malaysia, which is first, aeronautical machinery and equipment. Second, mineral fuel, including oil. Third, machinery, including computer. Fourth, animal or vegetable fat. Fifth, rubber, seed, optical technician, medicine apparatus. 7, plastic. 8, aluminium. 9, iron, steel, and 10 other chemical goods. Aluminium was the fastest grower among the top 10 export categories, up by 92.9% from 2020 to 2021. The fastest grower among Malaysia imported product categories was gem and precious metal, which is 71.8% increase from 2020 to 2021.
In 2021, Malaysia export items worth $299 billion around the world. This amount has increased by 7.4% during 2017 and will accelerate by 28% between 2020 and 2021. China's mainland, Singapore, the US, Hong Kong and Japan are Malaysia's top 5 trading partners. Over half 53.2% of Malaysia export earnings were made by just 5 key clients. Put on a continental lens, about 2/3 Malaysia exported goods worth 70.3% of its total value to ASEAN neighbours and 12.9% went to North American buyers. Another 9.8% of Malaysia's export to Europe were goods. Oceania 3.5% led by Australia and New Zealand, followed by Africa 2.4% and Latin America 1.1%, which excludes Mexico but includes the Caribbean.
FDI in Malaysia is established when a non-resident investor hold at least 10% of resident company share. FDI refer to transaction in financial asset and liabilities between resident companies and non-resident direct investor. The transaction could involve Malaysia Corporation and their parent or peers. Malaysia is a significant Southeast Asia investor. Its work to keep FDI determined like legal infrastructure competitive. Many policy tools exist. Malaysia have improved FDI drivers and is evaluating new method. Since independence in 1957, Malaysia have used natural resources, available labour and intangible advantage including GSP trade status, macroeconomic stability, a liberal trade environment and a resourceful legal infrastructure to attract FDI. Malaysia's major policy is to use FDI to obtain foreign technology capital and skill. We can see FDI into Malaysia up to 3.1% to RM31.7 million in 2019.
The bank had operational difficulties in ensuring that the public had convenient and easy access to cash throughout the year due to the MCO sharp increase in demand for cash. The bank therefore carried out 3 action plans in order to accommodate the rising demands for cash. It started by using their buffer, which consists of extra currency stock they have on hand beyond what they normally consume. Second, they work closely with the bank's strategic cash partner, particularly financial institution and cash in transit firms, to make sure that there were always cash accessible at the nation more than 12,000 automated tellers machines (ATM). Third, the bank's SEC was crucial in satisfying the pandemic's spike in cash demand since it has the capability and ability to manufacture large amount of banknotes issued into circulations. The bank specifically built split operation and backup teams to guarantee business continuity and minimum disturbance to the operations of the SEC and BNMO. SEC is automated cash center and the BNMO is Bank Nasional Malaysia offices.
Okay, now I will talk about the country currency, which is Malaysian Ringgit. Malaysian Ringgit is the national currency of Malaysia. RM is the currency abbreviation for MYR. This is the code displayed when obtaining a currency code, such as USD/MYR. Malaysia official currency. The Ringgit is also accepted in Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Philippines. Malaysian dollar replaced Palayan and British Borneo dollars in June 1967. Until August 1975, the new currency was referred to in dollars and cents.
Political unrest is weighing down the ringgit. For instance, the third wave of COVID-19 infection was partially a result of the government's inability to quickly respond to the epidemic in the fourth quarter of the last year as a result of shaky coalitions politics. The third wave of COVID-19 had seriously worsened the short-term prognosis, together with the necessity for fiscal and monetary assistance to support the economy during the pandemic. As a result, it has increased its estimated of the average exchange rate between the ringgit and the US dollar for 2021 from 4 ringgit 5 cents to 4 ringgit 15 cents. A declining US dollar trend and rising oil prices may cause the local currency to trade slightly stronger over time. This is also due to the undervaluations of the ringgit in its true effective exchange rate. But risk to the rising outlook exists, particularly due to the still elevated political risk where instability continues to impact investor sentiment regarding the country.
Okay, we go to the next point, which is the performance of currency during COVID-19. The ringgit declined to 4.2957 against the US dollar so far today after the US currency surged because to the COVID-19 pandemic and reduced oil price. Investors worry about additional supply after the COVID-19 outbreak and Russia-Saudi Arabia oil price war. As a net oil exporter, Malaysia ringgit has declined with oil price. At press time, the ringgit was 4.2788 to 4.2957 per dollar. Malaysian Rating Corporation Berhad says the ringgit's performance affect corporate and consumer confidence and the real economy. Historically, the ringgit follow oil price. Less expensive oil hurts the ringgit. A continuous reduction in oil price will reduce ringgit sentiment, but a short-term oil price war will not. MARC said the ringgit's future path depends on how long oil price stay low.
For the first time since August 2020, the Malaysian ringgit fell below RM 4 ringgit 20 cents against the dollar on Wednesday as the US Federal Reserve FED hints at earlier tempering and growing domestic COVID-19 cases dampening sentiment. The ringgit lost value versus the dollar at the moment, falling from Tuesday closing at RM 4 ringgit 1920 to RM 4 ringgit 2015 local time, as the Delta variant COVID-19 wave keeps messing with the region's recovery plans. Asian currency in general continue to be under pressure, according to senior market analyst Jeffrey Haley of Aanda Asia Pacific. Next, Stephen Ince, the managing partner of SPI Asset Management, also told Xinhua that any hawkish hints Powell made during his intermittent speech to the US Congress could size European by a US dollar bill further weakening the ringgit. In light of the aggressive Fed, it anticipated a drop in the ringgit's value versus the dollar to RM 4 ringgit 23 cents. Domestic problems in Malaysia, such as the prolongations of the lockdown, fiscal slippage and political uncertainty, are anticipated to put additional pressure on the local currency.
We will now look at the British pound to Malaysia ringgit exchange rate chart to see how the rates have changed over the last 2 years and to see if the pandemic have had any effect on how the rates have changed. If we look at the graph month by month in 2019 before the pandemic began, we can see that there was a big drop. In 2019, before the pandemic started, the pattern of graph show a big drop from month to month. We can see from January to June, the rates were stable and the average exchange rate for 2019 is 5.3078 ringgit. The best exchange rate of 2019 was 5.6023 ringgit, which happened on 12/12/2019. The worst rate of 2019 was 5.0048 ringgit, which happened on 31 July 2019.
Okay, now we're moving on to the 2020 exchange rate chart. The Malaysian ringgit rate increased from January to February of 2020, the year the COVID-19 virus pandemic began, with the highest rate being 5.51 and the lowest being 5.27. As soon as March arrived, the Malaysian ringgit was in trouble, with the exchange rate suffering a sharp decline from 5.51 to 5.07 MYR/GBP because of the pandemic and other problems. In addition, the currency is impacted by the key variable of monetary policy, price inflation levels, GDP growth, interest rate, balance of payment, and Malaysian oil price. Then, the Malaysian ringgit has fluctuated until September, with the lowest value being 5.26 and the maximum value being 5.55. As can be seen in the MYR/GBP exchange rate graph, the rate of the Malaysian ringgit then dropped once more until 5.25 and then rise steadily throughout the remainder of the year 2020, from September to December. Before the year 2020 came to a conclusion, the Malaysian ringgit managed to reach the highest exchange rate of 5.56 MYR/GBP.
Due to profit taking, the ringgit ended a 5 days gaining streak today by closing down. The local currency lost ground against the dollar at 6 o'clock PM, falling from Tuesday close of 4.3945 for bid, and for us is 4.3980 to 4.4050 to bid, and for us is 4.4065. The ringgit will continue to fluctuate versus its US equivalents as market participants became more defensive due to mounting recessionary fears driving up demand for safe haven currencies. Additionally, the performance of the ringgit was hampered by the declining oil prices, which were caused by concern by the commodity demands would be negatively impacted by the potentially recession. The price of benchmark Brent crude oil at the time of writing was $109.8 per barrel.
Overall, the yearly pace of the pandemic had a significant influence on its world, but the nation's economic growth has been crucial contributor preserving its solid value in terms of exchange rate.